back to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS. Now it's real time, sponsored by the Mill Casino.
Welcome back, everyone. We've got Austin Moser. He's the owner of Austin's Northwest Adventures. I'm sure you've heard of him if you're in the fishing world, but he spends his time between Bonneville and up on the east side of Washington, where he's at right now, chasing triploids, and some of them are as big as the fish that he catches down in the buoy 10 fishery in the fall. You can't argue that, okay? It's just that simple. But before we cut out Bill, or excuse me, Bill, I'm talking to Bill Monroe Jr. over here, Austin. I know you guys know each other. Say hi. He's in the studio this morning. But you got your bow mount out, so that gives you tons of options. You can spot lock, you can jog from one spot to the next if you see fish migrating through in different areas, but you can also troll. Are there times that you change things up and get on the troll, or do you stay on that spot lock? What do you do, or your preferred way to go after them?
Well, as you know, I troll a lot for salmon. So when I get up here and I'm able to do this fishery, I like to do rod in hand type of fishing. So I don't hardly do any trolling for these fish, but guys do. I mean, that's not saying that you can't. I mean, there's a lot of guys that come out here and they troll, especially when the water warms up a little bit and we start getting more into spring. They're a little more active when the water warms up. But no, definitely we use the spot lock a lot. I got a lot of different spots that I fish, and we're just using the LiveScope and kind of hunting them down. And then we're putting the jigs right in front of them, or the spinners, or whatever we're using. I do some different type of things with the baits, different kinds of baits. Lots of bait works. You can run shrimp and coon shrimps and prawns and power bait and just eggs. All that kind of stuff will work. It's just some of it works better on this day and some of it works better on that day. So you got to figure out what they want. And being on the water really helps.
Yeah, well, obviously. I mean, that's one of the reasons why Austin is as successful with his clients as he is. It takes a little bit of time to figure out any fishery for that matter. But when you're talking about a put and take fishery, you're referring to using some pretty interesting electronics, let alone a bow mount, but you've got your LiveScope that you're obviously utilizing to put a few more fish into the boat. How does that actually help you when you're chasing these fish around, understanding, of course, that you're still, in a river system? But does that LiveScope give you the opportunity to kind of pinpoint where they are and then stay on them? Or how do you actually use that technology to your advantage when you're chasing these things around? Because there's a lot of folks with that technology now in their boats.
Yeah, so I have mine on the Fish Fighter LiveScope mount, and I can directionally look whichever way I want. I can down image, I can perspective look, or I can forward look. Most of the time I'm forward looking, and so I'll scan around the boat when we're on anchor mode. I'll scan around the boat and I'll find where those fish are, and I'll tell my customers, hey, he's 30 feet over there and he's 40 feet deep, and I'll have them cast it over there, and I can watch their jigs sink down to that fish and watch how that fish reacts. Now, if he doesn't react, if he spooks, if he doesn't even come up and look at it, then I know, well, they don't like something that's in there. So we might change the colors. We might also change how your cadence and how you're jigging. Sometimes a softer jig or a heavier jig, or just pausing and just being totally still while it sinks can do that. Now, if I didn't have LiveScope, I could never see that. So I've learned a lot from having that LiveScope in all the fisheries that I do. Even at buoy 10, we're trolling. We can make sure that our gear is right in those fish, and we can watch how they react to that lure. So it's an invaluable tool to help you guys put more fish in the boat. And I'm not sponsored by Garmin. I'm actually sponsored by another company, but I run the Garmin because it puts fish in my boat, and I have to do that for my customers.
Well, and you made a really good point there. You're able to see how they react, right? Because he's still fishing, everyone. He's not trolling. He's presenting his baits in front of the fish. Hopefully they can see it. But if they get deterred or if they have no interest, he can make adjustments from there. So it makes perfect sense. So my next question is, if you are seeing that, where those fish might be getting off put a little bit when something gets put in front of them, and you're able to see that, are they leader shy? Are there things that you know right away that could make them refuse whatever it is that you're offering them?
I don't know that they're leader shy, but I think that certain colors stand out to them, and certain movements. Certain movements will spook them. And also, if they come in close and you jig it up and you hit them with that jig, it's going to spook them. So I think sometimes when your cadence is too aggressive, it'll spook those fish, and then you are just not being as effective. They'll run away. So then I'll tell people, like yesterday, there was a fish chasing a customer's jig, and he picked it up, had it in his mouth, and he just barely felt it. And I go, I think he's got it. And he went to jig, and it didn't have it in its mouth, and it spooked it and it ran away. Well, the very next time when it came in, I told him, just shake the tip of your rod just to get that marabou to wiggle, and boom, he got the fish. And that was the last one of the day, and it worked out perfect.
Okay, now that I'm not an ice fisherman at all. I've never been ice fishing, but that kind of reminds me of, the folks that are fishing straight through a hole, watching their baits and kind of just getting everything just right. Yeah,
yep, that is it. Just getting it right on them. You can see the fish, you see how they react. They swim up to before I had this, I would move spots, not thinking there's fish there. But we'll sit in one spot. There's fish there all day long, under my boat all day long.
Right.
So it's hard to move when you're leaving fish to find fish, but by having that, I can work through all my gear and try to get them to bite. And if we can't get them to bite here, more than likely 10 minutes down the river, they're not going to bite very good there either. So we got to kind of work on that and try to figure out what they want.
So for folks that are watching, Austin, let alone, I'm sure some are going to want to come out with you and maybe, take advantage of this fishery or try to get in on it. I'm assuming that you're probably booked up going through, but it is something that if folks time it right and get booked up with you, is it an advanced fishery, or is it relatively simple to get your clients to present those baits the right way?
Yeah, it's just a little trial and error. I just watch how they're working and what they're doing. If people can cast, that helps too. It's not always vertically jigging. We do some casting and things like that. So, but I teach people how to cast all the time, and I teach people a lot of techniques that help them to catch more fish on their own when they go other places. It's amazing how many people I actually teach how to cast and the right way to cast, because you see all kinds of crazy ways of holding the line and doing the fly fishing cast and all the different things. And so by the end of the day, usually everybody's dialed in pretty good.
Okay, I get it. As a guide, yeah, I can only imagine. Bill, and I know you would agree, I can only imagine what you guys do. I could never do what you guys do. I could not do it. All right, well, what is the availability like going for you in this fishery? Are you just booked up solid and people are booking up for other fisheries?
No, we're still, booking during the week. I think we got one weekend day left between now and March, the end of March, but we got lots of midweek stuff, and to be honest with you, the midweek is better than the weekend fishing. Just less people, more current, that kind of thing. So if anybody ever asked me if they what day they would go, I always tell them midweek, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But we have a lot of that availability. When we fish this all the way to the end of March, April timeframe, mid-April.
Gotcha.
And then we'll hit the sockeye in July, and we're just kind of doing our normal program. But yeah, we'll do a lot of walleye fishing when we start hitting March, but we'll still catch triploids at the same time. So
what a fishery, everyone. Walleye and triploids all in the same day in the part of the world. I mean, look what he's got back behind him, everyone. It's just absolutely beautiful over there. If you haven't spent any time, that alone should be something that trips your trigger on heading that way to go meet up with Austin and get in on that fishery. Austin, as always, though, each year we have a chance to talk with you about this triploid fishery, and we're going to do it again. I mean, it's just one of those fun fisheries that's available that not a lot of people take advantage of, and when you have an asset like Austin, utilize it if you can. But as always, man, we try to get that fish to go while we were on air. It doesn't happen every time, okay?
I know.
But next time, perhaps. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
Okay, guys. Thanks for having me on. You guys have a good day.
Thanks, Austin. We always appreciate it. There you go. That's Austin Moser from Austin's Northwest Adventures over there in the Lake Roosevelt area, targeting triploid trout. Just a cool opportunity, especially for traveling through the area. Set it up the right way, and hopefully you can put something together with them. Now, when we come back from the break, we're going to have Mr. Bill Monroe Jr. here in the studio. We're going to talk specifically about the very brief retention fishery for sturgeon above Bonneville. A lot of very frustrated folks. We'll try to defuse that a little bit and find out what his thoughts are about that closure and maybe what will change in the future. We'll be right back.
Outdoor GPS is brought to you by Chevy Silverado and the impressive Turbo Max engine. Flex your muscle with the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever. Official truck of Outdoor GPS.